Yes, Nicky, you should always donate a few quid so I can have a good night out. Hi, everyone. Just going to check here because last time I went live, um, I had the mic muted for about 10 minutes, so I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me in the chat. Hi, everyone. Just check everything is set up. Yeah, I'm all set up. Happy birthday. Thank you, Learned Hand. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Yes, it's my birthday today. I've had a few beers already, and I'm going to enjoy myself tonight. It's not very often I drink, to be honest, anymore. I used to be a really big drinker, but I don't drink anymore. So a couple of Budweisers that somebody bought me, and I'm anybody's at the moment. So let's just get straight into it because I want to obviously dive into it and talk about what I need to talk about, and then go out. Like I said at the beginning in the chat, I don't have a super chat function, so if anybody does want to make sure that I answer a question, send me, whatever you can on PayPal, and put the question in a note, and I'll read it out. I've got my phone here, and it'll come through as soon as you do it. And the other thing is, I just want to obviously go out, so I'm going to make this short. As everybody knows, I've been really keeping an eye on what's happening in Yemen and Syria, and there's been developments. I did a video the other day on Syria on how America were protecting these moderate rebels, as they call them, in southwest Syria, on the Jordan, on the border with Jordan, and also pretty close to the Golan Heights. Just to remind anybody who didn't see that video, this is how it started. This is Heather Nauert, Heather Nertz. This is Heather, the State Department spokes. The State Department's pox. That sounds about right. The State Department's pox. I'll leave it at that. And she said the US remains troubled by reports of increasing Syrian regime operations in southwest Syria, and this is because Assad, along with Russia, have basically carved into the area that was held by these rebels. She attached a statement that had the narrative from the State Department in America saying, basically don't bomb this area, protecting these rebels, which, as we know, are pretty much 60%. I mean, it was 60% a while ago. 60% jihadists from factions such as Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, and ISIS. And here you can see, here's Damascus, and then this purple area. Let's zoom out. The purple area, this is from the BBC a few days ago. Purple area is the Syrian rebel forces, i.e., the terrorists, and the orange area is the Islamic State group, i.e., the terrorists. So Jordan's down here, and here's the Golan Heights, which Israel have been illegally occupying since 1967, since the Six-Day War in 1967, I think it is, but don't quote me on that. And obviously you can see here they've carved into it all the way down to the border, and then they obviously want to spread out. Question here is, why aren't Israel pissed off at ISIS being right at their border? Surely they should say, yeah, come on, we're going to go and sort them out. This is ISIS. We attack terrorists, don't we? But that doesn't seem to be the case. This was, I think, yesterday. Now, I'm not sure of the source, to be quite honest, but it was retweeted by Intel Crab, and Intel Crab seem to, who are a Twitter account, they have been pretty accurate over the last three or 4 months. I've been following them, and they say the Syrian rebels have called for reconciliation with the Syrian government. This is something that many people in the West don't know. Assad, as a matter of practice, I nearly said principle there, but it might be principle. Assad always gives these rebels chance to say, hey, we're going to attack you very soon. We give you a choice. We're either going to attack you or kill you, or right now you can lay down your weapons and go home and face no repercussions. Not much of a bloodthirsty, dictator No bloodthirsty dictator does that, but he always does it. And this time, the Syrian these rebel groups, who are mostly Al Qaeda and Al Nusra operatives, they are calling for. They were calling for it. This time, though, if we go to the Telegraph, US tells Syria rebels not to expect help against expected army assault. So, what I said was worrying was the fact that the US were protecting these groups that Assad, the Syrian army, and the Russians are attacking. It was obviously a delicate situation. It looks like America and the West have gone, nope, you're on your own, guys. We can't get involved here, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing. We'll see whether it escalates, but it is a dodgy situation at the moment there, the same as it is in Hadada in Yemen. This is today. Now, I've picked this source. I don't know the source, to be quite honest, but it is one of many in the Middle East that are coming out. Syrian army begins a massive attack on Daraa city, so it is happening, and the West are thankfully so far stopping out of it. I need a swig of beer. That's the first story I wanted to talk about, but I just wanted to give people an update on that and then say hi to everybody in the chat. Natural Progressive, what about Patreon? Just pledged. Guys in the chat, if you because obviously it might tick as quite fast as viewers, you know, come on board. Although I don't expect to see many viewers. If you actually put at Gordon Dimmack and then ask a question, it'll highlight it for me. Yeah, if you put at Gordon Dimmock and then tag me in it, it'll highlight it for me if you want to ask me a question and you've just donated on Patreon. If you have, thank you very much, The Natural Progressive. It really helps. It really does. I want to be able to do this full time and be able to, you know, buy more professional equipment and hopefully employ people around me and, you know, and build this up into a business. And it's with your help. I'm not going to sell out. It's going to be with your help that I do it. Short like a Jamal the video. No, Nikki, it's going to be short like a Gordon video. I'm going to make it short and sweet. I watched an interview with Assad the other day. He speaks better English than Trump. Yes, he does. Yeah, I've got that video bookmarked to watch. I haven't watched it yet, but I have got it video. I've got it bookmarked because I've been doing other stories. But I will do that in the next few days. What the hell does Syria think they can try to... Lawrence Taylor, you're correct. What the hell does Syria think they can try to control their own country? How dare they, imperialist bastards? Absolutely correct. Syrians reclaiming Syria from foreign jihadists, Jen. Exactly. Yeah, foreign jihadists. Great point, Two-Stone. This is not... It may have started with the Arab uprising in 2011, the so-called Arab Spring, but it's you know, that started in multiple countries at the same time. It started in Yemen, it started in Syria, it started in Libya, it started in Egypt and other countries as well. And as we know with Libya, hey, that was largely funded by the US, and that is now, you know, a failed state with open air slave trade going on. That's Hillary Clinton's foreign policy, basically. To be honest, it's America's foreign policy for the last 75 years. We'll come to that at the end of this video. Trust me, I want to end on that. So yeah, these are paid people from outside. We fund them, we arm them, we train them through Saudi Arabia, and obviously other organisations and other people will do that as well. Why hasn't ISIS ever attacked Israel? Why is Israel treating ISIS fighters? Why is Switzerland treating ISIS fighters? Lawrence Taylor, you know what? I think you will know the answer to that question. Look at them. I'll show you that map again. Show you that map again. There you go. Look, that's a pocket of ISIS down there in orange. There's the Golan Heights, and here's Jordan. Do you not think that Jordan... Look at that, smack bang in the middle. What do you know? You know, I have seen reports that Jordan are advancing tanks to that area over the last few days from the Middle East as well. So it is a hotbed of activity at the moment. It could spark you know any number of things could go wrong there. But can you imagine if you look there's ISIS. Can you imagine for those in the UK? Can you imagine if ISIS was on the border of Mexico? For those in the US, can you imagine if ISIS was on the border of Canada? Can you imagine if ISIS was in the UK on the border of Republic of Ireland or on the border of France? I think we'd be going in there and saying, listen, I don't care about détente. I'm going to blow those fuckers to smithereens. Don't you think that would be the case? Great point. Great point, Lawrence. Great point. What's the beer? It's just some Budweiser that somebody bought me. I don't really drink much anymore. So this is basically piss. Bottled piss. And it doesn't get me drunk. I can't drink whiskey anymore. I do like whiskey. That's my drink of choice. But I know I didn't want to get too drunk before I did this live stream. Ruben Garcia. Hello, Gordon. I just found your channel last week. You've become one of my 6 favorite progressive hosts. You know what? It's top 6. I'll take that. You got Jamal Thomas. You got Carl Kalinske. You got Mike Figueroa. You got Ron Placone. You got Jimmy Dore. Wow. I mean, with those guys. Thank you. You're on my list of things to Patreon tonight. Thank you, Time. Natural Progressive at Gordon Dimmack. You are welcome, and thank you for your great reporting. Thank you for your nice words. It's really nice to get feedback from the audience and say that I'm on the right track. And the fact that I'm not monetized yet is obviously a good point that I'm on the right track. JT Zuni, I've read your email. I keep wanting to reply to it and then get waylaid because it's not an email, without giving too much away, but it's not an email that would take 1 or 2 sentences. It's not a video that would take 1 or 2 minutes for me to cover. What you're talking about there is fucking horrific. And it makes me sad. That's all I can say at the moment. And I will address it when I get time. I apologize. I haven't got back to it so far. It's a big thing, and I really want to spend the time, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, to sit down and write. I just haven't had the chance yet. But thanks for sending me the email. You say James May was doing over 200 miles on a refill on the most abundant gas in the universe on Top Gear before it got screwed. I used to like Top Gear when it was Jeremy Clarkson. I still do like Jeremy Clarkson. He's one of my favourite people. I like James May. I like the Hamster. It's going to be sad when they leave and stop doing it. I've watched their Amazon Prime show. It's not as good. Top Gear was great, and they obviously couldn't follow the format because otherwise they would have to get lawyers involved. But it was a refined format, and the new show wasn't as good. And it's going to be sad when they go, but I'm sure I'll do other stuff. John B, isn't it depressing? The clock has been turned back over 100 years to the Gilded Age and neo-imperialism. I think depressing is putting it mildly, to be honest, John. Wow, it's horrible. I'm gonna touch on this in my next little segment. Like I say, I don't want this to be a long video because I want to go out, but I'm going to touch on this, and it covers a lot of things, and it covers a wide range of topics. Lawrence Taylor, I want to move to electric vehicles, but nobody's building batteries. I want us to as well. And inherently with that, they obviously change causes problems. Most of the I think it's lithium that the batteries are made out of, which comes from I can't remember the name of the rock now, but it's like a clay sort of thing, and a lot of this is in Africa, and obviously a lot of what you're doing there is going to countries that will employ slave labor, but this is what capitalism wants, you know? Um, it's a huge fucking problem. It really is. It's capitalism rewards those who cut corners and screw the little guy. That is inherent in the problem with capitalism and global capitalism anyway. Takes advantage of third world countries, and a lot of the stuff where you're getting lithium from is from continents like Africa, which are sadly not as developed as Western countries. I'll do a video on that one day, Lawrence. I will do a video on it because it's something I'm extremely interested in. I'm extremely interested in electric vehicles. There's a YouTube show called Fully Charged. I've forgotten the name. Who does it now? Peter Llewellyn, I want to say. I think it's Llewellyn, but they're very good on electric and green energy. And I do want to cover electric cars and electric future in one of my videos, but it's going to be a long one. I'm going to need to actually, rather than just sit there and talk to the camera like this, I need to structure it properly. Nikki you'd think Israel would be livid with the historic issues between Jewish and Muslim people, but the US has probably squared it with Israel. Of course they have. Of course they have. Excuse me. Okay, I'm just trying to. Zed Corruptor Gordon, I read a couple of years ago an important article about the rise of democratic fascism in the West. I can send the link. Please do send it to. Let me do the link here because it's changed recently. I'm actually changing web hosts at the moment, so my gordondimmack.com email is down for the next 2 days. So let me give you an alternate email. There you go. Send it to that email, please, Zed Corruptor, and I'll check that out. It looks interesting. John B, you hope history teaches people, but obviously it hasn't. Well, the reason it hasn't is because people aren't taught history. I mean, look at America. Look at how they teach history now in schools. It's fucking pathetic. It really is. It's pathetic. It's all done with a propaganda and a biased view. It's horrible. It really is. Fucking hell, my hair's sticking up like Mr. Miyagi. You're thinking of Cobalt. Thank you, Lawrence Taylor. Yeah, it's Cobalt, and it's Robert Llewellyn. You are correct. My fucking audience is so smart, man. So smart. Learned Hand graphene is going to change everything. It's already being mass produced by Samsung Auto Industry X. Have you seen the videos of people standing on a sheet like 10 meters wide, and it's like that thick? It's like a micron thick, and people are standing on it, and it's solid. It's just amazing. Graphene is. It's going to revolutionize the materials industry. We're going to be moving away from things like steel, and we need to as well. Is copper also from African countries, says Ruben Garcia? I don't know. I know there's a massive shortage, but then copper is an outdated metal. We used to use a lot for plumbing, and I come from that background, so I know that plastic is used more and more now. It's an outdated material. It's not as good as plastic, especially if you look at, PVC and ABS and some of the other CPVC and some of the other plastics. It's been outdated by that. So copper isn't as important as it used to be. Cobalt, as Lawrence Taylor says, and lithium and other elements on the periodic table are going to take over. Lawrence Taylor, you attract smart people. I see smart people. But plastic is oil. Good point. Yeah, but I mean the stuff, the oil that we use. The difference is, and the people make this they make this all the time. The argument, these people who think fossil fuels are the best thing in the world. Plastic is oil. Yeah, it is. But if it's going into plumbing and that sort of thing, it's going into a fixed position. It's not going into the ocean. It's not going into the atmosphere. So, and obviously it's a small percentage of what we use fossil fuels for, which is predominantly used for transport and heating. Once you take those two things away, you can use it for your tubing. It's great for tubing, really is. It takes, if you look at ABS, takes a much lower temperature than copper, and PVC, I think, or CPVC takes a much higher temperature. It's much better than copper plastic is, and it's obviously not going into the ground, and it's not going into the sea, and it's not going into the air. So I don't mind using it for that. Keith Durand. Hi, Keith. How you doing? Thanks. If I send you a few links to documents on the history of the National Endowment for Democracy and their financials in South America and Africa, would you be interested? Absolutely. I'm researching a lot about South America at the moment. Africa is a sort of like a new thing that's been happening geopolitically, with America getting involved in places like Niger and obviously Libya. But the South American issue, I'm gonna. It's a good segue into the next segment, actually. So, yeah, please send me the links to the email I've put in this chat. Okay. I'm going to just quickly go on to the next thing I want to talk about, because I want to talk about Bill Maher, and chiefly the chief reason why I want to talk about Bill Maher is he's become the media. These late night chat shows, they are. I'm not sure whether they've become the media or the media have become them, and they've met halfway in the middle. I remember in the 80s, there was Channel 4 started up in the UK, and then Channel 5 a few years later. But in the 80s, Channel 4 started up, and we started having a lot of late night entertainment come on the TV screens that we'd never seen before. I'm specifically thinking Euro Trash and there were a lot of late night talk shows, and it was edgy, and they were talking about drugs, and they were talking about corrupt government. It was great to see. Now the late night stuff, the Colberts of this world and the John Olivers, they've moved more and more towards the centre, or towards the safe end of the scale. And obviously now you've got paid actors in the media as well. So they've sort of, become combined almost in this fucking propaganda machine. And I saw this tweet by Peter's Douches liaison. And if you don't follow this guy on Twitter, please do, because the guy's fucking hilarious. And he said Bill Maher nailed it tonight. Softball interview left viewers with warm fuzzies for the NRA. His panel included the neoliberal scumbag that is Neera Tanden, trashing third-party voters. I thought that's going to be interesting. Reiterated his hope for a recession. I heard about that. He actually said he hopes there is a recession because it will be bad for Trump, and also lobbied for more money in politics. Now, I've pretty much ignored talking about Bill Maher. I think I've done one video about him. I've written a couple of articles in the past about him. He drives me mad, Bill Maher does, because I used to like Bill Maher. I remember listening to him back in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, especially on shows with George Carlin. That's how I got to know him, through George Carlin. And I honestly thought when George Carlin died, sadly, Bill Maher was going to take his mantle. Unfortunately, he didn't. Fortunately, we have been blessed with Jimmy Dore, which is better, in my opinion. So it's sort of, a lose-win situation. But Bill Maher, basically, as I'm not the only one, I'm totally disappointed by him. So I tend to stop away from those people and tend to stop away from what they're talking about. However, I saw that from Peter Douches liaison, and I thought, right, what I need to do is I need to do a full video like I've done with other sort of the BBC documentaries. I thought, because if there's that much shit in it, this is going to take a long video, and I am going to do this. But let me just show you what I've found so far, because it really is indicative of all the problems that go on in America, not just in America at the moment, but also in Britain. It's global. Because I went to that show and I thought, right, okay, I'll watch this and I'll evaluate it. and I got through his monologue, which he, you know, he does his monologue, but he did one joke about Ivanka Trump, not Ivanka Trump, Melania Trump. That was really quite good. He's always actually been good at those sort of jokes, but Bill Maher has. He's never lost that. So I tried to watch him, and so he's done his monologue, and then he brings up on the NRA guy, which is this black guy. I can't remember now his name. I can't remember his name. Fuck. Somebody write it in the chat. And he brought him on, and they had a chat, and they had an interview. And I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video and break this down, and I will do that because I started doing that yesterday, and I haven't got past the first 3 minutes of his interview so far. And I started doing it yesterday because there's so much fucking wrong with that interview, and there's so much wrong with the way he does it. It's astounding because he starts with the NRA guy and he asks this question, right? And I've got a video of this, but I don't know how to play it and get the sound. So I'm going to try and do that actually now while I'm here. I'm not sure. Can you hear this?
Automatic, right? Yeah. Tell me about that. Vast majority of your gun.
Can everybody hear that in the chat? If I play that video like that, there's a bit of a delay, about 10-second delay. But yes, you can hear it. Right. So I'm gonna play this video for you, and this is okay. So this is one of the first things he says.
So there's an aspect of, say, for instance, semi-automatic, right? So there's an aspect of, say, for instance, semi-automatic, right? Yeah. Tell me about that.
Now, the reason he's bringing up semi-automatic there, right? The reason they've gone down this semi-automatic, the reason why he's bringing it up is because Bill Maher's first question to him. I mean, this is the NRA. This is the NRA guy he's talking to. Can you imagine if I interviewed that NRA guy? What would my first fucking question be? Dude, what's happening with all these school shootings, man? What are we going to do about these guns? Look at all the people that are being killed. And that's what, because that's what people are talking about. No. Bill Maher actually asked him, what's the most common misconception about guns that annoys you? That's what Bill Maher asked him. And it's like, fuck me, could you pick a more softball question than that? Could you honestly try and pick the only more softball question than that would be like, what's the color of your curtains at home? Do you sleep in the nude? Anyway, let me play this again. This is his answer to the question, what's the most the biggest misconception? The biggest misconception about guns.
So there's an aspect of, say, for instance, semi-automatic, right? Yeah. Tell me about that. Vast majority of your guns, almost all of them are semi-automatic. Almost all guns, right? I heard you say that. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
You know, and I heard that. This is one of the first things that was said. I mean, seriously, it's the first time he spoke. The guy to the question. You know, they had a chat before, and this is the first interview piece he does. And that's the question he gives. And when I heard that question, and he brought up the semi-automatic, and he said a lot of people don't know this, the difference between semi-automatic and automatic. I thought, who doesn't? How many people don't know the difference between semi-automatic and automatic? Certainly nobody who's ever watched fucking Hollywood movies and played any video games. Semi-automatic. I thought as soon as he asked that question, I thought, well, that's funny, and he brought that up rather. As soon as I thought, well, you squeeze the trigger once, one round comes out, another round doesn't come out until you release the trigger and squeeze it again. So you have to do that to fire multiple rounds. That is semi-automatic. Automatic is machine gun. You press the trigger, multiple bullets come out at obviously varying rates depending on what the rate of fire is of that weapon. It's like that's the thing that annoys you the most. People are not confused about that, motherfucker. Nobody's confused about that. You might be picking on 5% or 10% of the population who are fucking uneducated. If you're going to have a conversation about stuff, talk about the real fucking stuff. This is what I'm thinking as I'm watching this stuff. There's so many thoughts going through my head right now, and so many arguments I can make about that first 30 seconds of the interview. It's insane. And I thought, right, okay, semi-automatic and automatic, that's what they're talking about. But I thought then, right, okay, maybe he's trying to educate these 5 or 10% that don't know. It's like, fuck me. Call of Duty. I'm going to show you how big Call of Duty is. Anybody that's grown up in the last 20 years with Call of Duty knows the difference between a semi-automatic and an automatic weapon. They just do. And that is the biggest softball question you could have asked. And then he goes on. This is the next question he asks him.
Most people who aren't too familiar with guns, they usually know about them by way of movies.
So the question he asks him, oh shit. The question he asks him there is, why do liberals think that banning the AR-15 will solve the problem? That's the question Bill asks him. Why do liberals think banning the AR-15 would solve this problem? Now, my first thought is liberals don't think that at all. Liberals don't think that will solve the gun violence problem. And by the way, have you noticed how he said this problem? They haven't mentioned school shooting once so far in the fucking interview. Not once. You bring on an NRA guy and you don't talk about school shootings in America and mass shootings. How can you talk to anybody about the NRA and not bring up school shootings and mass shootings? And he's, like I say, his second question, why do liberals think banning the AR-15 will be a problem? And this is what the guy responds with.
Most people who aren't too familiar with guns, they usually know about them by way of movies. So you see the movies with all the bad guys spraying and praying, doing all these crazy things with the firearms. And then you see that in reality and you're like, oh my God, I don't want those anywhere near me or on the streets.
And that's the answer he gave. From movies. He says most people get their information from movies. Well, if you got your information from movies, you know your fucking difference between a semi-automatic and an automatic weapon. Especially if you like movies and you like those kind of movies, chances are you're gonna like, you're gonna like Call of Duty. That's what you're gonna like. You're gonna like Call of Duty. Just look at this. Now he mentioned there Hollywood. Just look at this. The Call of Duty franchise has made over $11 billion. 11 billion. But he says it's movies. Now, why isn't he calling out computer games? Why isn't I say calling out? It's not necessarily calling out, it's just stating a fact. Well, most people know the difference between semi-automatic and automatic is because of, games like Call of Duty. Would you have heard of a Desert Eagle pistols if you'd never heard of Lara Croft? Or what's that one with Vinnie Jones, that movie? There's a movie with it. But that doesn't mean that that's contributing to violence, though. It does. I'm not making that argument. But what I'm making the argument is this fucking interview is like, you're talking about everything but the issue, and even the stuff you're talking about, you're deflecting elsewhere. And this is what Bill Maher does. And this is why I've said before, if there is an afterlife, George Carlin would be looking up at him right now and thinking, you neoliberal, you out of touch, neoliberal, detached douchebag. That's what Bill Maher would be. George Carlin would be thinking about Bill Maher. He's not talking about the issues. The issue isn't about guns in America. That's not the issue. The issue is about these school shootings. There's lots of people who are getting killed. Why is this happening? It's not about guns. It's not about guns. It's about fucking health. You have got 60% of people in America that can't afford a $1,000 emergency. You've got 40% of people that are fucking living in poverty, or rather can't afford a $400 emergency. You've got a massive amount of people that are living in poverty. And as Lawrence said earlier, or whoever it was, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was now, living in the wealth inequality that hasn't been that big since the fucking Gilded Age. That's what you've got. You know, and people like Bill Maher are the worst. They're the worst. They're everything. They epitomise everything that's wrong, not just with America, but also the UK as well, because he's living in his fucking bubble. And that's how. Honestly, I didn't get any further than that segment. I haven't got any further than that since yesterday, because I'm researching all sorts of stuff, because this is all connected, you know, the immigration coming into the country, it's all connected. The fucking increase in school shootings, it's connected. It's connected. And the reason for all of this happening, the reason you've got immigrants coming in from El Salvador and Nicaragua and all that sort of thing, just trying to come. I watched an interview with Elizabeth Warren today. It was, and she went to one of these detention centers, and she went around there and she said it was terrible. They were in cages and they were obviously got sheets on them, and every one of them, they asked them, are you glad they come to America? And all of them said yes. All of them, they all said yes, because it's worse at home. Why is it worse at home? Because of 5 or 6 or 7 fucking decades of American foreign policy that has rendered these countries uninhabitable almost. The crime has gone through the roof as a result of American foreign policy. Sorry about that. American foreign policy, combined with neoliberalism, has caused these fucking problems. Now, if you're not willing to identify those things, and you want to talk about, you know, oh, well, it's a feeling and it comes from movies, and I'm not blaming movies. And, oh, well, it's, you know, they need to know the difference between automatic and semi-automatic. No, you're not talking about the fucking problem, you dumb fucks. And this is why I get mad at Bill Maher, because he knows better than this. But he's turned into if he doesn't, he's an out-of-touch, neoliberal, detached douchebag. Is what he's become. And this, I'm going to do a video on this. It's going to be a long, long video. What is happening in America at the moment with the rising mass shootings and the rising immigration, it's a result, and it's the blowback from both neoliberalism in America for the last 3 decades that threw the poor and the middle class overboard 3 fucking decades ago, and a result of American foreign policy in Central America and South America, which is basically crushed it's like I'm trying to find more and more instances of this. This is why I'm spending so much time on the video, but it almost seems to me like anytime a country in South or Central America wants to have a democracy and wants to have socialism, the American fucking military industrial complex is bang on their doorstep. That's what it seemed like to me. I've got to look at the evidence and I will break it down in a longer video, but that's the fucking problem. Stop scapegoating these immigrants, you know, these immigrants who are the tired. They are the tired, the poor, the frightened, huddled fucking masses at their doors. As a result of the American foreign policy that has caused this. And the UK, by the way. We're not fucking innocent. I've talked about this with the immigrants coming into Europe as well. We've got to take responsibility for our fucking actions over the last 60, 70 years. Especially over the last 10, 20 years with this war on terror against Iraq and Afghanistan. Until we take responsibility for this, and until the consensus in America reaches to the point where they understand this, then fascism is going to grow. It's going to be a breeding ground for it. Because you can blame other people for your own fucking problems, and the only reason that's going to happen is if the people are misinformed by their own government propagandizing them, which is why I rail against it so hard with the BBC in this country. The media are just manufacturing consent. If you haven't read Chomsky, please do. At least watch the short video on YouTube about manufacturing consent. You'll understand. This is not a new theory. This has been going around since the 80s. He wrote that, I think. Manufacturing consent. That was the late 80s. I mean, how we can talk about video games there? This is the reason why that guy didn't bring up video games, because he went down the it's the movies and it's the feeling, it's the muzzle flash and it's we don't want it. No, it's not, you dumb. Honestly, he's not dumb. He's deflecting. People know the difference between semi-automatic and automatic. They do. Most people do. I'm sure of it. You know, the Call of Duty franchise alone, $11 billion. That's more than Star Wars. That's more than all the Star Wars movies. It's almost as big as the Marvel universe, which has made something like, I think it's 11 billion. Or sorry, 13 billion, something like that. And they're talking about other things instead of the real fucking problem. The real problem is, listen, you've got a massive inequality gap in this country. The middle class and the poor have been fucking thrown overboard. They're not making enough money. They can't afford their medical expenses. When it comes to physical medical expenses and mental health problems, you've got a lot of people there who are uneducated, frustrated, angry, in a country that's got a lot of guns. Banning the AR-15 is not going to change that. Banning the AR-15 is not going to solve that fucking problem. Will it stop more people from being mowed down? You know what? I'm looking at the stats. The assault rifles have been, I say assault rifles or armor light rifles, which is what the AR stands for. They've been around for a long time. It's only been in the last few. You get the occasional school shooting, but in the last few years, it's gone through the roof. Now, why is that? Why is that? The AR-15 didn't suddenly come on sale in 2017 or 2016. Rifles like that have been available in America for a long, long time. Banning that one rifle is not going to change anything. The only reason why that is the weapon of choice is because it's a fucking good weapon. It's a fucking good semi-automatic weapon, which is legal in the United States. And you don't want to be going down the route of trying to regulate that. Sure, have background checks, but for God's sake, make sure you've got a government in first that is going to do it properly. Because at the moment, they're just a bunch of corrupt people who go with whoever gives them the most money. These are the things that they didn't bring up in that interview, and this is why I'm going to do a longer video on it. And the reason why I bring up the fascism again, obviously I did a video about fascism last week. You should check it out. It's one of the live streams I did. Is this graph? I've been keeping a real good eye on this. This is the Gallup poll of Trump's approval rating since he was inaugurated. Now, this was updated on Friday. It's actually only a weekly poll now. But I have demonstrated in the past how when Trump is attacked on certain things, his actual approval rating jumps. Now, I always go back to this one poll just simply because it's not necessarily the most accurate, but they are consistent. Gallup are. They are consistent in their bias, if you want. And you can see there that's his highest approval rating up here. This is last Friday, not this Friday gone, the week before, but that's the highest point his approval rating was since the inauguration. Now, obviously, that was the week after the détente with North Korea. So he's going to see that and think, oh, right, okay, my ratings go up when they attack me on North Korea, same as I've demonstrated before. His approval ratings go up when he's attacked on Russia because everybody knows it's bullshit. And it's going to be interesting to see when this updates to see whether it drops and how far it drops after the last 10 days of these problems with immigration and these camps in America, these kiddie jails, as they're calling them. It's going to be interesting to see how far that drops. But it's also imperative that I mention this. The fucking press, this is why it frustrates me so much with people like CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, BBC, Guardian, these main corporate and establishment outlets. in the BBC's case, the state media, the British state media. They've got a massive amount of funding. They could do a brilliant job. Just look at all the stories that have come out in the last week on this immigration stuff. Look at all they've done with regards to, the babies crying and them going to... They could have done that at any time since 2009. At any time. And they didn't. They're doing it now, yes, because they're fighting back against this tyrant, if you want, this fascist tyrant. But they should have been doing it since when Obama was doing basically the same thing since 2009. Yes, Trump has ramped it up, but they should have been doing it long ago. And it just goes to show how good they've been at bringing out these stories. They should be doing that all along. Not just because they don't like this president. It's their job to hold power accountable, and they're not doing it. Okay. That's it. I wanted to say that's my piece. I'll scroll up here and have a... Just going to get the ones people higher. Right, okay. Natural progressive. Agree on Ma and Door 100%. It's Ma. It's just so disappointing. I'm just so glad that we've got Jimmy, because he's the present day George Carlin, in my opinion. I love that guy so much. Insanity practice. I take a semi-automatic hunting. Really? Dude, seriously, if you really want to enjoy yourself, from what I can see, I'm not a hunter, but if you really want to enjoy yourself, ditch the automatic. Go and learn how to fire a bow. Because that's a fucking art. Go and learn how to do that. Especially if you're hunting deer and stuff like that. You know, big stuff. I'm just going to try and get the jelly down. Spot on, Gordon. American society, and the UK as well. It's not just America. It's the UK as well. And people, we've got to get this... Until people realize this, until this sort of thinking is the consensus, things are not going to change. It's going to be very difficult to change unless people understand the facts behind it, and just not talk about bullshit like Bill Maher and that guy from the NRA want to talk about. I got that far. I haven't even watched any more of it. I've watched the rest of that interview with him just to make sure and they did talk about some other good stuff, and I'll put that in the video. But I didn't even get to near a Tandon or Bill Maher saying that he wants another recession to bring down Trump. So, two's time, just checking. If we leave the Syrians to sort themselves out without imperial intervention, isn't it fair to leave the US to sort out guns for themselves? Yeah, okay, fine. But I'm not going over there and bombing them because they've got a gun problem. I think, unless I've read that wrong, that would be my response. Golden silence. In the US, we have the most uneducated population, and all the politicians could do to improve their lives is to let them have guns so they can kill each other. And obviously, they also stop them from voting as well. Yes, Trump is a distraction. I am going to take a drink. Thank you, Lawrence. Well, there you go. Cheers, everyone. Zuni says Theresa May got her idea of the toxic environment from George W. I've got this saying. I mean, I'm not sure whether I heard it somewhere, but if America sneezes, a week or so later, America catches a cold. It's almost like everything they do, we follow. And it has happened. The more I've researched stuff like this over the last 2-3 years, the more I've found that, we are basically America's lapdogs. Whatever America wants, we do. John B. Jimmy as F good as he is never touches 9/11. I'm not touching 9/11 either. I haven't got enough evidence to support things either way. I'm certainly not going to be. See, the thing is, if you go down that route of talking about 9/11, you're giving them ammunition to smear you. You've got to think of that. Ruben Garcia, progressives already knew about Obama was deporting more immigrants than Trump. Yeah, it's been known for a long time. A long time. But the mainstream media aren't going to do it because obviously Obama was their boy, you know? And now, you know, they call out Fox for hypocrisy because they were bringing it up and they're not bringing it up now. What do you expect? It's fucking Fox. You know, it's not a news organization, it's an ideology. Deporter in chief, you're absolutely right, Lawrence Taylor. That's what he was known as. Yeah, two-time fair game. I think I did. I think I did miss your point. I think you're right, and that's why I looked confused when I did it. Okay, and we're down at the bottom. Right, it's 9:05, guys. I need to go and have a shower and get dressed. I want to go out. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I'll be dropping more videos tomorrow. Just thanks very much to you all for your support. I really mean that to anybody that sent me, you know, a couple of dollars or a pound or two, whatever it is. It all adds up. But to people who've sent that to me on PayPal, just thanks, man. It really, it's all, you guys are awesome. They really are. And I can't do this without your help. I just can't, because YouTube, they're meant to be monetizing me. That could be an extra $200, $300, $400 a month. Could double my how much income I get from this channel overnight if they do it, but I don't think they're going to. They said they were going to do it by the end of the month, but we'll see. Golden Science then says, as Samuel Jackson says in Formula 51, the UK is nothing but the 51st state of the US. I disagree with that. I actually think we're the 52nd. I think the 51st is Israel, but that's just me. Right. Thanks very much, guys. I'll be dropping some more videos tomorrow, but now I'm going to go and go out, have a shower, have something to drink, and get quite stoned. So until tomorrow or whenever I see you next, thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks for all your support, and peace. Take care, everyone.